Krypton meets Marvel, Superman's rival shakes the universe. Please like, share and subscribe. Episode 1. Son of Krypton. In the depths of the majestic universe, a dazzling star is collapsing, turning into a terrifying black hole in an instant, and it explodes with a bang, and an incomparably huge wave radiates into the distance, and wherever it passes, all turned into nothing. It's all down to chaos. Since then, in this universe, the Kryptonian Empire with hundreds of thousands of years of culture was completely disintegrated due to the collapse of Krypton. The huge interstellar empire has few survivors. General Zod, who was exiled by the Empire and exiled to the Ghost Zone, and his beloved son Clark, who was sent away by top scientists, are among the rare survivors of Krypton. Definitely in this unknown plan, there was one person who flew towards the Earth with the hatching chamber at the moment Krypton collapsed. Whoosh! Like a shooting star, the warp engine distorted space, and suddenly crossed an incalculable distance and came to the sky above the Earth. Earth, Paradise Island. This is an isolated island, and it is also the island of the legendary Amazonian female warriors. Female warriors stay here forever and never go out. Not only that, all the ships from the outside world, without any accident, broke into Paradise Island at all. But today, a fire like a meteor flashed across the sky, with bursts of roars that broke through the air, and fell directly towards Paradise Island. Assembly, there is foreign invasion. As soon as the voice fell, the meteor in the sky had already fallen on the beach of Paradise Island. At the same time, under an order, the Amazon female warriors quickly assembled, and under the command of the queen, rushed towards the beach. Bang! The sound of hoofs was endless. A group of slender female warriors, familiar enough to ride horses, are valiant, but after a while, the entire beach is instantly surrounded by endless crowds. Your Majesty, it's an alien spaceship. The burning flame gradually extinguished on the surface of the dark spaceship, and a slightly slender ship appeared in front of me. When the door shell was completely opened, it turned out to be an incubator. What caught the eye was a young baby, who seemed to feel the stimulation of the outside world. The baby opened his smart eyes, stretched out his hands, and babbled. Acridine called out. So cute. However, a baby. The Amazon female warriors looked at each other in dismay. He was ready for battle, but he never expected to send a baby. What's even more unexpected is that this is actually a baby boy. Amazon has not come to a man for a long time. This baby came from the collapsed Krypton. As early as the Supreme Council of the Kryptonian Empire, a secret plan was launched when the doomsday occurred, that is, to cultivate and breed a final savior. His future will be the savior of Krypton, the gospel, the ruler, the dictator, and the first person to honor Krypton again. It is not easy to revive an empire, which means that the ruler needs a strong strength. But this is not a problem for Krypton to create such a perfect person. After all, every person born from Krypton is a genetically modulated product. The son of a scientist is a scientist, and the son of a soldier is a soldier. It was doomed the moment it came down. Workers, farmers, scientists, soldiers, the moment they were hatched, were genetically programmed to perform their duties perfectly after birth. It's more like a flesh and blood robot than a creature. And this savior, who pinned the hopes of the Supreme Council, was the most perfect product soaked in scientific and technological efforts, and the most powerful genes were written at the moment of incubation. This is doomed to his extraordinary. He is domineering, fierce, ambitious and possessive. He will also be the strongest character in the history of Krypton. And now, he has come to a paradise full of women, which is also the hometown of Wonder Woman Diana, Paradise Island. P.S. The new book is asking for your great collection, Flowers. Episode 2. The adopted son of Paradise Island. Paradise Island. On an isolated island, this is a paradise for women only. It can be said that it is definitely a paradise that every man dreams of. And in such a paradise on Earth, a man did come quietly, and it has been more than 6 years if you count the time. I didn't expect that time passed so quickly, and he has grown up. On the palace, the Amazon Queen Hippolyta sighed in a luxurious robe. With her caring gaze, a little boy stretched his limbs around on a vast plain. Even though the little boy was a little younger, every time his limbs swiped, there was a gust of wind whistling, showing the rapidity of the movement. Fast. He was a born warrior, a little over 6 years old, and possessed the unshakable power of an adult human being, said Antiope, the Amazon general. Not only that, I'm afraid that with his current strength, even an adult Amazon female warrior can't help him. It's a little freak, and I don't know if you were right to take her in? Antiope said. At the moment when the black spaceship fell on Paradise Island, facing such a young baby, the Amazon Queen remembered Diana, who was far away from her, and finally moved with compassion and embraced him completely. He has to leave one day. He doesn't belong here. This is Paradise Island, a place that belongs only to women. Antiope continued to emphasize, she knew that her sister liked this little boy very much. The Amazon Queen, who was silent for a while, just shook her head and said, he's still young, wait a minute, he's not strong enough. Not strong enough? Sister, you really spoil him, and you don't know his strength at all. Antiope shook his head and laughed. Let you see for yourself what your adopted son is capable of. Ah. You have to be careful. The Amazon Queen couldn't help frowning, but Antiope in front of her was slowly walking towards the playground on the plane. On the plane. Suchin squinted his eyes, and after stretching a set of fists and kicks, he only felt the warmth of the cells all over his body, and when he looked away, it was a sea of blue waves. This is Paradise Island. I am a son of Krypton. For him, these 2 points are a very incredible thing. You must know that before the time travel, he was just a high school student preparing for the college entrance examination, but he did not expect to come to this paradise a few years ago. The Amazon Queen, the mother of Wonder Woman Diana, adopted herself, and it's a marvelous thing. At a glance, there are valiant and slender Amazon girls everywhere, and Su Chen is in a very happy mood. At this moment, a familiar figure came over. Antiope. Call me General, boy. Antiope walked in front of her, and she looked very serious in armor, just like her tone. Seeing this, Su Chen also put away his smile. You two, come here and have a chat with him. Antiope frowned and waved the Amazon female warriors who were training on both sides of the plane to come over. Just, learn from each other? This Amazon female warrior can't help but be confused. Brave and belligerent is the blood of Amazon female warriors, and the daily sparring training has basically not fallen, but the target is now a little boy of about 6 years old. Although the height has reached everyone's waist, facing such a handsome and cute little boy, everyone can't do anything. This is my last order. Antiope said again. Please. Su Chen smiled and nodded politely. Su Chen didn't feel annoyed at the sudden discussion, but was very excited. As the son of Krypton, he always wanted to know how strong he was now. Due to the fact that all the Amazon female warriors doted on him very much, as well as their own age, it is still unclear whether they are different from the Amazon female warriors in strength. The Amazon female warrior didn't feel awkward, she directly put on a fighting stance, nodded her head and ran over. Su Chen didn't dare to neglect, the female warrior in front of her was different from ordinary people, her speed was very fast, and in just a short breath, she was nowhere near her, and she stretched out her arms, trying to grab herself. Su Chen, who stayed in place, seemed a little sluggish and did not respond. The Amazon female warrior seemed to feel a little bullied, she wanted to hold back her speed a little, but the eyes of the pair of smart eyes on the opposite side. But they followed her movements steadily. He seems to be capturing my movements all the time? Sure enough, when a pair of hands reached out, Su Chen's body jumped dexterously and completely avoided it. The Amazon female warrior also showed no signs of weakness, and slapped her hands again, and the speed was even more unreserved. Su Chen was the same as always, and he didn't see how he moved, but he neatly avoided every attacking move of the opponent, and resolved every crisis with ease. Super dynamic visual capture. The Amazon Queen instantly understood, and all the movements could not escape the capture of these eyes. Female warrior, take out your weapon, and the 3 of you will join me. Antiope gave the order directly. P.S. Kneeling in the snow and begging for a big flower, collect it. Episode 3. The Power of Su Chen. Clang. The sound of sharp blades being drawn out of their sheaths can be heard incessantly. The Amazon female warrior took out the long knife in her hand from her waist. At the same time, the other 3 female warriors also came over and surrounded Su Chen in a square formation. Go together. The well-paced Amazon female warrior no longer treated the boy in front of him as a little kid, and took it very seriously. Even Su Chen no longer responded with a playful attitude. The bright knife light showed a real sharp edge. When he went down with a knife, he would see blood, so he decided to backhand. Call. There was a whistling in the ear, and the sharp blade even made Su Chen's skin aching. The crisis of instinct made Su Chen's eyes turn cold, and his blood was hot. He just tilted his head and let the sharp blade pass. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand and hit directly on her arm. Under the pain, the female warrior couldn't help loosening the blade in her hand, but there was a sharp pain in the waist and abdomen, and then the whole body was thrown out. Double hit. Just as Su Qin retracted his right hand with ease, two other sharp blades swept toward both sides of his body. All of this was captured by his eyes, and all their movements were so slow as if they were frame by frame, so that Su Qin himself could react quickly, and this was the dynamic vision that surprised the Amazon Queen. It's a little slow. Su Qin took a small step back, stretched out both hands, and grasped their different wrists with precision. The strong grip made them feel pain, and they threw down the weapons in their hands. It was pulled by him for a while, and they collided with each other. The momentum was so cumbersome, they knocked each other into a daze and fell to the ground, stunned. It was just that the two couldn't breathe, and there was only the last Amazon female warrior standing on the scene. Bang! She started to run, her boots stomped down, and the dirt was turned upside down. Su Qin looked at him coldly, and there was a hint of coldness between Gu Pan. The oncoming Amazon female warrior couldn't help but stare at each other, but her heart froze, and then, Su Qin, who was standing on the ground, seemed to disappear from her sight all of a sudden. But in such a blink of an eye, a figure has jumped in front of his eyes. So fast. As soon as the words fell, her body was thrown out in the opposite direction, and fell heavily on the lawn dozens of meters away. So far, in less than 10 seconds, the formation of 4 Amazon female warriors was easily completed by Su Qin alone. Too fast. The Amazon female warrior lying on the ground rubbed her sore arms. They could not imagine that this gentle and lovely little boy was actually ferocious. Very well, you are born strong. Antiope was not stingy with her admiration. According to common sense, Amazon female warriors are a race blessed by the Greek gods, and their physical fitness is several times that of ordinary human soldiers. However, Su Qin in front of him easily won for well-trained Amazon female warriors, which was far beyond Antiope's imagination. Even the gift of the gods to Diana is nothing more than that. The Amazon Queen sighed. Just now, she had been standing on the balcony of the palace, and she did not speak out against the duel that happened just now, because every person born on Paradise Island should not be afraid of fighting, not to mention the one and only one on the island. Man. However, she never thought that Su Qin's strength was far beyond her imagination. You must know that Diana, the Wonder Woman who was blessed by the gods and possessed the power of gods, did not show such terrifying strength when she was young. This child is less than 6 years old. At this time, Su Qin had withdrawn the fist of his right hand, and the cold state of mind had gradually dissipated. He was still reminiscing about the move he used just now. He was originally 10 meters away, but suddenly came to the action in front of the enemy. It was the iconic Superman fight. In an instant, it switched from extremely quiet to extremely moving, which was simply unbearable. In addition, Su Qin also discovered that he seemed to have become another person just now, calm and terrible, but at the same time very violent, domineering. Is this also me? Su Qin, my child, you did a great job. The Amazon Queen also said with admiration. However, she also showed a smile and said, but I think you need more systematic training. There is no strong person without any training. Train? Su Qin was stunned. He also knew that the next life was no longer the experience of a prince full of favors. Episode 4. Sheikh Nemean. On Paradise Island, a figure jumped down directly from the top of the waterfall, reaching a height of several hundred meters in one fell swoop. At such a height, the strong impact generated is enough to cause direct death. But that doesn't apply to Su Qin. Bang! There was another loud noise, and the figure actually broke through the water. Like a cruise missile of a submarine, it flew from the water into the air, and drew a straight line towards the air. It just didn't stay in the air for a long time, and it fell like a kite with a broken string. Bang! The momentum of less than 1,000 meters smashed a large pit on the ground. When the dust and smoke dissipated, you could find the figure lying down inside, and there was no injury at all. I still can't fly. Su Qin sighed. And this year, it wasn't long before his 8th birthday. As the son of Krypton, bathed in the sun's rays, he only felt that he could feel the growth of strength every day. This is because the radiation of the yellow sun caused wonderful changes in the bodies of Kryptonians, making them stronger and stronger. It's as if every cell in the body is filled with surging power. At just 8 years old, his body was already like an unmatched peerless beast. This is a veritable body of steel. It is also the current situation of Su Qin. Su, are you all right? Noticing the change here, the Amazon female warriors who heard the wind from the side couldn't help but stare. This guy fell from the height of 1,000 meters. If something happened, they would be female officials, maybe scolded by the Amazon queen. Suchin just smiled and stood up slowly. What's the matter with that lively appearance? What a monster! The Amazon lady beside her sighed involuntarily. Okay, we should go back. The sun is gradually setting west, and it is officially time for dinner. But this time... Ah! A scream burst out from the edge of the forest not far away. This seems to be the direction of the taming farm, the Amazon female warrior said in a panic. Obviously, something seems to have happened over there. The female officer quickly became overwhelmed, but she knew what monsters were locked in the animal taming farm over there. If there was an accident over there, it would be a big deal. I'll take a step first. Suchen frowned. He had also heard the news of the animal taming farm. In a hurry, his body flew away like a sharp arrow. Damn, shoot arrows. On the taming field, the Amazon female warriors in military uniforms shouted loudly. A sharp arrow slid through the air and shot straight at a few lion-like monsters on the field, but arrows made of gold and iron collided with these lions, spattering sparks. The flesh and blood of these lions is like a steel layer, unshakable. Damn Nemean lion, I didn't expect that this could happen by accident and run out of the cage. The Amazon female warrior cursed angrily. You must know that the Nemean lion is an ancient beast in Greek mythology. Its skin is called indestructible, and its sword and arrows don't want to cut a trace of blood, let alone its fierce aggression. The cage was completely torn apart, and the Nemean lions in it could not help but file out, and the Amazon female warrior in charge of guarding couldn't help but feel a headache. You can only give up the weapon and rely on outsmart. But now, 3 Nemean lions. Suddenly, a whistling sound passed by, and a figure fell from the air. There was no doubt that this was Su Chen who came from a distance. Leave it to me. Su Chen said directly. The Amazon female warriors looked at each other, but they didn't say anything to stop them, because most of them knew the terrifying strength of the young man in front of them. The Nemean lion on the field shook his tail and looked at Su Chen, who was gradually approaching, with fierce eyes. The big mouth of the blood basin was filled with ferocious sharp teeth, and the saliva flowed straight on the ground. Be careful, the skin of this beast is indestructible. The Amazon female warrior couldn't help but reminded. Indestructible? Suchen outlines a smile. Let me take a look. Is your skin hard? Or is my fist hard? The provocative words seemed to make the Nemean lion perceive. After several fierce beasts roared, they rushed towards Su Chen. Every movement of that cumbersome body actually caused the whole land to tremble. Suddenly. Bang! Another exaggerated explosion sounded, Su Chen disappeared on the spot, and when everyone's eyes appeared, he was already in front of a Nemean lion. The figure that jumped in, suddenly slammed down, and the huge and vast strength suddenly vented on the head of the Nemean lion. Oh! A tragic neigh sounded, and the head of the entire Nemean lion was sunken in half. The 2 male lions that came running became more and more fierce. They opened their bloody mouths directly, and bit their sides with their sharp teeth. Suchen pressed one of them with one hand, but the other bit on his arm. Superior. A stinging pain came from his left hand. Su Chen's eyes instantly turned cold, the cells in his body were like a melting pot, and a tyrannical momentum in his heart started from nowhere. Death to me. The right fist didn't show any power accumulation, and the strong strength actually shattered the skull completely, killing one. Su Chen's eyes showed a cold and fierce light, and when he looked up with both hands, he directly pinched the mouth of the other male lion, exerting force in both directions, and with a click, the real mouth was completely torn apart by him. The Nemean lion let out a whimper and fell to the ground dying. Without any weapons, just relying on his unrivaled fierce power, he completely killed several beasts. This is a miracle that Hercules can only look up to. The Amazon female warrior was speechless. Episode 5. Ability is out of control. On the Amazon's palace. The news about Su Chen's fight against the lion spread in the palace. This kind of miracle that the Greek Hercules could not replicate is simply convincing. Su, are you all right? Hippolyta, queen of Amazons, asked with concern at the dinner party. The pharmacist on the side heard the sound, carrying the medicine box, and was preparing to treat the injury on Su Chen's hand. At that time, he was bitten by the Nemean lion. The skin and epidermis of the Nemean lion is not only indestructible, but even a pair of sharp teeth is comparable to a sword. If an ordinary person is bitten, it will definitely bleed to death. Suchin shook his head. Although the clothes on his arms were mottled with blood, when he rolled them up, the skin underneath had stopped the blood, and only a faint blood scab remained on the epidermis. The blood has stopped. His Royal Highness's body is not only a body of steel, but even the speed of healing is simply unmatched by gods. The pharmacist continued. Even Su Chen was puzzled and healed supernaturally, which seemed like a new ability. According to the past, the injury caused by his accidental fall when he fell from a high altitude would take several days to recover. Now, the bite wound of the male lion, which is more than 10 centimeters deep, has healed too quickly. This is your new ability again. The Amazon Queen said with heartfelt joy. Su Chen couldn't help but sigh in his heart that as he grew up, not only the power of Kryptonians also gradually increased, but also strange abilities appeared. Double pupil infrared heat beam, exhalation is frost, mind reading, perspective/sight, X-ray, these are the abilities presented by Krypton Superman. Su Chen estimates that it won't be long before he will be able to show a trace of ability. Because in his mind, some other people's voices had appeared inexplicably, but the voices were too weak, and Su Chen couldn't hear what they were talking about. But what is certain is that the thoughts of the people around him were captured by him, because when he was far away from the crowd, the humming sound in his mind disappeared completely. Maybe this is mind reading. But this process is somewhat cumbersome. Just like the flies flying around in his ears, the humming sound is extremely annoying, and what is even more maddening is that this humming sound cannot be driven away no matter how hard it is. This is a painful process. Superman Clark also suffered from this pain in his childhood, and it was tortured to the point of embarrassment. After eating, the depressed Su Chen wanted to be alone, because he couldn't turn off reading other people's thoughts at all, so he could only try to stay away from the crowd. "Your Highness, do you need our company?" said the palace maid beside her. Since the Amazon Queen adopted Su Chen several years ago, the Amazon female warriors in Paradise Island call Su Chen their Highness. Su Chen shook his head and declined the kindness. He needs to be alone, so that he can reminisce about the changes in the battle just now. One foot stepped on the ground, and he didn't see how he moved. The whole person suddenly disappeared in place. In the state of high-speed movement, no afterimage was left in the process, so it always gave people the illusion of traveling through space. But after a while, he had already traversed several miles to the edge of the forest on Paradise Island. Su Chen, who was sitting on the sturdy tree trunk, breathed a sigh of relief, and the buzzing sound in his mind disappeared directly from his mind. It's really annoying that you can't hear other people's thoughts clearly, and you can't turn off mind reading at will. Not only that. Su Chen recalled his state of fighting a lion in the evening. The character is suddenly irritable, like a volcano hidden in my heart. Especially after being bitten by a lion at that time, I only felt that my ferocity ignited all of a sudden. This is not the first time. In the past 2 years, Su Chen has been trained with Antiope, from a simple 4-person formation, 10 or 50 formations, until later, even the Amazon female warriors with hundreds of people were completely defeated by themselves. The process of this rapid growth in strength was not pleasant. When he was injured several times, his mentality was not lack of control and anger, and he almost killed several Amazon female warriors. As he grew older, he seemed to become more domineering and ambitious. I want everything. What the hell is this uncontrolled character? Inexplicably, Su Chen had an answer in his heart. Except for Clark, who reproduced naturally, every Kryptonian is a genetically modulated creature. They are destined for their future positions at the moment of birth. The question is, what is their position when they are genetically modulated on Krypton? Even if your soul occupies this body, the genes of this body cannot be changed after all. Where will this lead you? But what is certain is that Su Chen, who has returned to a new life, has already had enough of a comfortable life, but wants to know where the budding ambitions in his heart will lead him. Thought for a long time. Su Chen let out a long sigh of relief. The night is late. He also gradually walked towards the Amazon's palace. But at this time, the humming sound gradually resounded in the brain, and the momentum did not stop, but became more and more noisy, and completely exploded in the mind. What is this? Su Chen asked himself angrily. This humming sound contained the psychological thoughts of the Amazons whispering in a low voice. Although he had heard a little bit clearly, he had made a lot of progress compared to just now, but he was not happy. He heard more and more things. Not only did I capture the voices of the people around me, but I also began to slowly hear people's thoughts, even the sounds of everything in the forest, the sound of insects, cicadas, inaudible ants moving, and the sound of buds breaking out of the soil. It seems that everything, the voice of everything, has been captured by himself. Ah! Get out of here! Su Chen shouted loudly. He is in so much pain. There are thousands of voices in his mind, and he can't be driven out at all, he just feels like he is going to explode completely. With his roaring pain, his pupils suddenly became more and more red to the extreme, as if something broke open from his body, and after another roar, a terrifying red light spurted out of his eyes. Su Chen looked up, the red light from both eyes was like a red pillar, breaking the world. Episode 6. Listening, reading minds, infrared beams. Su Chen's ability is out of control. Read minds. Listen to all things. Double pupil infrared thermal imaging beam. One after another ability burst out from his body, which made him a little at a loss. The infrared beam of light sprayed towards the night sky in the forest also made the Amazon female warriors completely discover another terrifying aspect of this little guy. Afterwards, everyone who discovered the trail sent Su Chen back to the palace, who was completely unwell. Is he better? Said Antiope. Since I came back to the palace, I have been locked in the room alone, and I haven't seen him come out. Amazon Queen Hippolyta sighed. What a little monster, I really don't know if you were right or wrong in adopting this guy to grow up. Antiope said reluctantly, the exaggerated strength that is showing more and more makes her, who has seen the battle of the gods, feel a little bit of fear. The most important thing is that he is still so young, who knows how far Su Chen can grow. Faced with the silent queen's sister, Antiope continued, it's time to let go, he's grown up, and you can no longer use outside threats as an excuse. It's all Amazons here, it's time for him to leave, his world is not here. The Amazon queen, who pondered for a while, just frowned and said, wait a minute, and I have already told her to go back to Paradise Island, maybe I can help Xia Su. She? Return? I don't know how many nights have passed. Su Chen was still locked in his house alone. After a period of time, the state has improved a lot, and the voice in my mind has gradually disappeared. Control your own thinking with your mind, and if you don't radiate it out, you can no longer read the thoughts of people outside. After several attempts, Su Chen was able to completely block out the mind-reading technique, and the humming sound in his mind no longer reverberated. The current mind-reading technique can gradually hear people's thoughts clearly, but Su Chen can't completely control it, that is, he can't specifically read a person's thoughts at will. For temporary peace, he still chooses to block and turn it off. On the contrary, in the same period, the superpower of listening to all things out of control was gradually mastered by Su Chen. With Su Chen as the center, within a radius of several miles, the sounds from all things, such as the sound of ants moving, the sound of buds breaking the ground, the chirping of cicadas, the singing of birds, and the movement of ocean tides, are all heard by myself. Inside. Turn off the birdsong, the wind. In order to train the ability that Su Chen acquired, in order to make himself hear more clearly. He imagined his ability to listen to everything as a very high-end radio, and regarded the manipulation of his mind as a button. Some noisy sounds could be turned off and muted by himself, and some of the sounds he wanted to know were also can be magnified. Think about it. Sure enough, the whistling wind and the chirping birds dissipated directly from my ears. Dolphin sound. Su Chen thought again. The dolphin sound coming from the coast near Paradise Island was constantly amplified. At the moment, there were no more miscellaneous sounds coming from both ears. Su Chen, who was lying on the couch, quietly enjoyed the beautiful dolphin sound, and felt that his body could not help but relax and become free. Listen. For a long time, he named the ability to listen to all things listening. It is said that listening to the truth is a psychic beast lying under the table of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who can identify all things in the world through listening. The name is really worthy of the name. After pondering for a while, Su Chen silently formulated the next training plan. Compared to the concentration training of mind reading, listening is obviously simpler. During this time, I will focus on the training of listening. Definitely, and infrared ray beam. This is also the super ability that got out of control that night, and it is also the ability that first germinated that night, the heat external ray. Su Chen is not unfamiliar with this, after all, this is Superman's unique skill. The infrared ray beams ejected from the two eyes have the property of super high scorching, and the range is extremely wide, enough to melt through all things. Fortunately, this unusually ferocious ability has not shown any signs of getting out of control since that night. Su Chen breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Scott, known as Cyclops, was forced to wear a pair of special eyes because he couldn't control the ability of his eyes. Those extremely ugly eyes do not conform to Su Chen's aesthetic. Then, the infrared ray beam also needs to be strengthened. Thinking of this, Su Chen waved casually, and the dolphins lingering in his ears disappeared in the blink of an eye. Time to get out of the house and meet them. Hello, Your Highness. As soon as they walked out of the door, the maids outside looked surprised, but they all greeted themselves with joy. Su Chen nodded. However, under the loss of control of mind-reading skills in the past few days, most of them knew what the maid likes in her heart, and Su Chen couldn't help but complain, I'm so young to want to get involved, it's just a beast. But this kind of sinful idea is not just the maid. Su Chen can guarantee that most Amazon ladies have this kind of idea. Who calls himself the only man on Paradise Island? Pity. He was just an 8-year-old child. Episode 7. Wonder Woman. Meet Amazon Queen Hippolyta. No matter what kind of pity she was when she adopted the baby, but now, she has long regarded herself as an adopted child and gave her infinite love. So Su Chen respects and admires her very much. At the moment, when I just left the room, I came to the bedroom for the first time to visit my mother. Su, are you all right? In the bedroom, the Amazon Queen in a luxurious dress asked with concern. Su Chen shook his head and said with a smile, it's nothing to do now, I think it's gone. This has to be attributed to the powerful physical characteristics of the Kryptonians, but it took a long time to control the ability of sudden restlessness in the body, definitely Su Chen until now. He still does not understand how special his body genes are. In the rest of your life, you have to relax your training. The Amazon Queen muttered, but she knew that the child's daily training was much harder than ordinary Amazon warriors. That definitely. Su Chen didn't mean to brush her face to face, but just smiled and said. The Amazon Queen sighed and said, even if I have witnessed the glory of the gods and wrote that glorious epic, I can guarantee that your future will definitely surpass the gods of the past. The field you've stepped into is beyond the reach of the Amazons, and it's a bit boring and monotonous just by your own exploration. But it doesn't matter, we Amazons have a girl who has been blessed by the gods. I called her back not long ago. Hear this. Su Chen's heartbeat inexplicably quickened by half a minute. Unsurprisingly, the person the queen spoke of was naturally her daughter, the goddess whose waist, legs and face were all perfect, Wonder Woman Diana. The whistling of the wind blowing from the sea was constantly roaring. Under a clear blue sky, a slender boat slowly sailed towards Paradise Island, and on the coast, some eagerly awaited Amazons were waiting. Why don't the Amazons go out? Su Chen said suddenly. The Amazon Queen standing aside pondered for a while and said, this is a promise made to the gods, and the Amazons will never break their original oath. As if afraid that Su Chen didn't understand the meaning of it, looking at the boat gradually drifting from the ocean in the distance, the Amazon Queen in a good mood couldn't help but tell what happened back then. It turns out that as early as thousands of years ago, the wrath of Ares, the god of war, swept the entire continent, and among them, the Amazons were almost wiped out. Fortunately, the Olympic gods rescued them and gave them a paradise, which is Paradise Island. The entire Paradise Island has been blessed by the gods, and humans and ships cannot approach this island at all. But this is not without cost. There is a space tunnel to hell sealed in Paradise Island. For the safety of the Earth, the Amazons have also guarded it for generations. This is also the crisis underlying the peace and quietness of Paradise Island. Su Chen recalled for a while, guarding the passage of hell, this was the first time he heard of it, but he knew very well that Paradise Island was also responsible for guarding a very dangerous thing. That's the Mother Box. The movie Justice League revolved around the Mother Box. She is coming. On the coast, the crowd suddenly cheered. At the moment when Su Chen's thoughts were flying, Yi Bianzhou in the distance had also slowly docked on the dock. A tall woman caught everyone's attention, her feet wrapped in black leather boots stepped onto the pier from the bow of the boat. On top of the leather boots and under the hot pants, there were slender and tight legs, white and beautiful. People are restless. A tight-fitting leather coat on the upper body even modified her figure to be bumpy. At the moment, a face with delicate facial features was filled with a warm and extraordinary look, and she shouted loudly, "Mother, I'm back." After many years, Wonder Woman Diana finally returned to Paradise Island. Perhaps it was the relationship of missing, in Su Chen's heart, Diana, who was full of goddess, was like a cheering little girl, taking 3 steps and 2 steps, like a bird throwing herself into the forest, and threw herself directly into the arms of the Amazon Queen. It's so big and it doesn't look like it. As soon as I got back, you started training me. Little girl. Queen Hippolyta hugged her daughter tightly in her arms. After a while, they were reluctant to part. Diana's pair of smart and watery eyes instantly looked at Suchin beside him. After all, he was too unique and dazzling among the women. You're my new brother, it's the first time we meet, hello. Diana said with a smile. Younger brother? Suchin was surprised for a while. As an adopted son, and a daughter born from a genuine birth, in a sense, it can be regarded as a sibling relationship. Looking at the hopeful eyes of the Amazon queen, Suchin also smiled back, and then the whole body was also carried away by Diana. Although he is now 8 years old, his height is already sky-high compared to his peers, but in the face of Diana, who is tall and slender with boots on, he is still a lot shorter after all. Suchin only felt that the whole person was immersed in the warm and fragrant nephrite, and a faint fragrance suddenly filled his nose. It's so warm. And, since then, he seems to have another titular sister. Episode 8. Are you willing to leave with me? Paradise Island, also because of the return of Princess Diana, became laughing and laughing. The sound of prayers and blessings sounded in the Olympic temple, which was the call of a group of Amazons in unison. A bonfire was ignited in the temple, and the flames shot straight into the sky. Day and night, the fire continued uninterrupted. The cheerful atmosphere pervaded it, and even the flowers and trees of Paradise Island seemed to become brighter and brighter. Everything comes alive with Diana's return. But the good times don't last long. Diana has returned to the island several times in the decades since she was away from home during World War I, but each time she stayed was not long. Less than 20 days after returning, Princess Diana has already decided to return to the human world at the end of the month. For this reason, in the palace, the Amazon queen from time to time thought about it with Diana. Sister, are you leaving again? Suchin looked at Diana in a suspender dress and said inexplicably. And the title of sister, under the care of the past 2 weeks, has become very familiar. Diana, who had a glass of wine in her hand, turned around when she heard the words. She nodded and said, that's right. This is too soon. It's been less than a month, and Suchin is inevitably a little lost. This is something I can't do. Having said this, Diana sighed. It seemed that she had drunk too much wine, and a blush appeared on her delicate face. Discourse. It's not that I don't want to stay here, this is my hometown, it can make my mind more comfortable and quiet, but... Having said that, Diana paused before continuing, but the threat from the outside is still lingering in the sky above the human world. If I don't get rid of it one day, I can't relax. A threat from the outside world? Suchin was a little puzzled. And just now Diana showed a hint of weakness of a weak woman, which made him realize that the omnipotent goddess in front of him also has a weak side. However, that weak look was fleeting. Diana seemed to want to say something, her face became very solemn, and then a few words burst out of her mouth. Ares. Ares? Suchin was stunned. Isn't this guy supposed to die? According to the fragments in his memory, he remembered that Ares was completely killed by Diana in front of him during World War II. Diana shook her head and said, it's a very difficult thing to kill a true god in the world. Even if I seriously injured him during World War II, it didn't completely shatter his godhead. As long as the godhead is not completely broken, it means that he has not died at all. I see. Only then did Suchin understand the reason. It was too hard for him to die, and how quickly Ares recovered. As long as there is one day of war in the world, one day of bloody conflict, and Ares, who is in charge of the battle priesthood and is known as the god of war, will constantly absorb the nutrients of hatred and continue to grow himself. Having said this, Diana also became helpless, and Suchin also understood that human wars have never stopped since ancient times. It can be said that as long as human beings hope one day, war will be the eternal theme. Therefore, it is impossible to completely contain Ares' power. Only by truly smashing his godhead can all this be resolved. So you didn't tell your mother about Ares' death, sister? Suchin understood at once. What a little smart guy. Diana just laughed, pinched Suchin's nose with a pair of slender fingers, and smiled. You know mother's temper, if you tell her that Ares is not dead, I have to go outside to hunt him down, but mother will be worried. Kill me. It's better not to talk about it than to let her worry day by day. As she spoke, the touching and delicate beauty reappeared on her face. Suchin watched it, and she couldn't help but feel the urge to protect her. By the way, this is the secret of the two of us. Don't tell your mother. Diana said solemnly. Su Chen nodded indifferently. With this, things became very clear. Diana, who was rushing back to the human world, has been hiding from her mother. In the past few decades, it was to continue to stop Ares and find opportunities to completely annihilate his godhead. However, what I didn't expect was. But this time, it's mainly for you. An unexpected word came out of her mouth. Su Chen was inexplicably stunned. Diana was full of smiles, looked at him in front of her, and constantly said, "When I wrote to my mother, I often heard her praise you for your extraordinary ability, unparalleled power, and divine power. All the words of praise to the gods are similar. It's all on you." Su Chen didn't expect that her adoptive mother, who looked a little serious, would have such a side. "I heard that your ability has changed, so she called me over in a hurry, but I didn't expect you to solve the problem already." The night when ability got out of control was indeed doubly worrying, and it was no wonder that the queen who had always loved her would be so chaotic. "And, my mother told me, are you willing to leave Paradise Island with me?" Episode 9. King? The fate of Su Chen? Leaving Paradise Island one day, although Su Chen thought that there would be such a day, but he did not expect it to be so fast and so abrupt. "You're 8 years old, it's time to look at the outside world, you're not an Amazon, there's no need to waste your youth here," Amazon Queen Hippolyta said slowly. Su Chen, who was facing him, just shrugged and joked, "There are so many women in Paradise Island, I can't bear to leave." Hearing this, the Amazon Queen raised her face and said, "I didn't expect you to be so young, but it caught the attention of women. But it's also a joke." She sighed and said, "You are different, your ability is unique, your stage is not here at all, you should have a broader future. Before I leave, I need to show you something, maybe you can learn from it. Find your way forward." After listening, Su Chen narrowed his eyes and nodded heavily. It seemed that he had received the news that Su Chen was about to leave, and the festive atmosphere on Paradise Island suddenly subsided a lot. Before parting, the Amazon Queen also officially showed herself something. "That interstellar airship came from nowhere, but it came to Earth with you. In the vast underground space, there is a black spaceship parked inside. The surface is full of smooth lines and the beauty of future technology. This is not a human technology category. And this black ship is the hatching escape warehouse from Krypton, carrying Su Chen to escape the mother planet." Before that, the Amazon Queen took into account Su Chen's life experience, but did not mention it. "This is the key." A black key was entrusted to Su Chen's hand. He nodded, and entered the Krypton spacecraft with a little trepidation in his heart. A pair of black and white clear eyes shone with a faint light, and the darkness of the 5 fingers could not be seen, and he couldn't help him who was able to see at night. There is not much space inside, just a nutrition tank is embedded in the center, which must be the device that I lay in it when I was a baby. On the wall, a grooved hole caught his eye. Click. The black key fits perfectly into it. Hum. In an instant, a faint blue light emerged from the interior of the spacecraft. Identification begins, genetic testing, life testing begins. Identified correctly. In the process of this detection, Su Chen's body instinct was a hint of danger. After the identification was successful, it disappeared. Obviously, don't look at the space inside this ship is a little narrow, in this there must be some dangerous counter-weapons in there. Congratulations to the arrival of the master. A melodious machine life could not help but fly out of it. I saw the light in the air refracted for a while, and a woman in delicate clothes emerged from the holographic projection. "You are. I am the artificial intelligence of this ship, you may call me the Messiah." "Hello, Messiah." Messiah, who was suspended in the air, nodded, looked at Su Chen repeatedly with his eyes, and said after a while, "The strength of the master's body and the activity of cells are far beyond the expectations of the Supreme Council. According to this situation continue to develop, it is indeed the first person on Krypton in the plan." Imagine? Plan? So I'm just a Kryptonian genetically engineered being? A flesh and blood robot? Su Chen is not surprised by this. This is the realism of Kryptonians. Every person is destined to his future position at the moment of Krypton birth. Workers are destined to be workers, and scientists are destined to be scientists. They have no choice or change. You can only follow the program set by your genes step by step. In recent centuries, the blueprint of natural breeding, and only Clark, he has the opportunity to freely choose. "So, I am so strong and powerful, is my genetic blueprint a general or a soldier?" Su Chen said jokingly. Speaking from the bottom of his heart, he didn't care too much. After all, the artificial intelligence of Krypton in front of him didn't even know that his soul had already replaced this body. He didn't believe that he would still be like his destiny. Mission of the Star. Messiah just shook his head and denied his words. She smiled gracefully. The Master is the first person on Krypton set by the genetic blueprint, so he may be a general and soldier. You are the most perfect product that the Supreme Council has worked hard to create. The first person on Krypton? The most perfect product? Su Chen was a little puzzled, while at the moment projected a series of holographic images in the air. Messiah pointed to the majestic cosmic starry sky in the air and began to speak. Krypton is a planet that is worse than Earth, but our footprints have traveled more than half of the universe, established interstellar outposts one by one, and used reconnaissance ships to transform the planet's climate so that we can survive. For 100,000 years, the Kryptonian civilization has flourished. However, a prosperous empire will eventually decline. This is a process that cannot be violated. We use genetic engineering to control the birth of the population, and because the whole society has stabilized its mentality, it will no longer expand and develop, so that all outposts have been lost. Station. The natural resources of the core of the Earth are also being exhausted step by step. Finally. Bang. The holographic projection of Krypton completely collapsed and disappeared. In the end, Messiah's eyes fell on Su Chen. Although objectively speaking, human genetic engineering is the key to the final destruction of Krypton, but even now, the Supreme Council has pinned the hope of Krypton's revival on this technically. You are the perfect product of this technology. Your strength is the first in history, and you will bear the fate of reviving Krypton. You are the last King of Krypton and will be the first. Episode 10. Unique Su Chen. Inside the Krypton spacecraft, a faint blue light slowly reflected the entire narrow space. Under the light, one could see the puzzled look on Su Chen's face. Reviving Krypton? The last king? So the blueprint for Krypton's genetic creation is not a soldier or a general, but a dictatorial monarch? This was a bit unexpected for Su Chen. He was not some shoddy, assembly line soldier, nor a general like Zod, but a king like never before. The artificial intelligence Messiah floating in the void nodded and said, "Yes, you have placed the hope of the Supreme Council and all Kryptonians. And you are the most unique king. The title of the first person on Krypton is not my favor, it is your well-deserved praise. Then what's the difference between me and ordinary Kryptonians?" Su Chen was puzzled. At least he wanted to know the difference between himself and General Zod and Clark. Your genes are an unprecedented large-scale project. For our hope of revival, we have devoted all our efforts to create a king with no strength flaws. We have all made up for the flaws that appeared in Kryptonians in the past. No flaws? Kryptonite. Kryptonite, a mineral produced when a fixed star explodes, and several colors of kryptonite have been discovered, all significantly pose a great threat to Kryptonians, with pain, weakness, and death from prolonged exposure to radiation. This is kryptonite. The fatal flaw of the star. Su Chen squinted his eyes. He was as strong as Superman, who had been soaked in solar radiation for more than 30 years. When he encountered green kryptonite, he instantly turned into a weak mortal, with almost no power to fight back. But in you, there will no longer be such a terrifying defect. Your cells are more active than ever before. Not only can they absorb the energy of the sun's fixed star, but any ray energy in the universe will help your body. Kryptonite does little damage to your body at all, there is no lethality at all, and because of your physique, you can even absorb the kryptonite ray energy in it to strengthen yourself. Besides, the damage done to you by magic damage has also been weakened to a certain extent. Similarly, your terrifying cellular activity can even absorb a certain amount of magic to deny yourself. This. Su Chen squinted his eyes. Kryptonite has always been a big concern for Superman. The light radiated from kryptonite is enough to take away the life of Superman in seconds. Energy. And magic resistance is also a criticism of Superman for focusing on physical damage, which is also not small for the nemesis who is keen to punch to the flesh. But obviously, this body's ability to resist magic is obviously much stronger, and it can absorb a certain amount of magic. Su Chen clenched his fists. This time he understood the horror of his body, and it was no wonder that the Supreme Council pinned the hope of revival of Krypton. Then that means, I won't become powerless against other solar radiation. According to his recollection, in the movie, the reason Superman Clark was so strong was all due to the yellow/colored solar ray energy hanging high in the sky, which changed his body strength and made his cells hyperactive. However, Under the red sun radiation atmosphere that was adapted to the survival of the original Kryptonians, it was like being cursed by kryptonite. Messiah shook his head, affirmed Suchen's thoughts, and said, "Your body cells are extremely sensitive to the external cosmic energy, can capture any free energy, and will not form excessive dependence on the yellow/colored sun alone. So don't worry too much." In this way, Suchen doesn't have to worry about losing all of his body's ability at once after leaving the solar system. Definitely, this also reminded him of General Zod of Krypton. He was able to adapt to the atmospheric radiation of the solar system in less than half a day, and he was already safe and sound, and even activated the heat beam attack of his pupils. And Suchen himself, there is no doubt that just adapting to ability will be more terrifying than General Zod. But it also made him wonder. Then if I receive other radiation, maybe I will activate other abilities as well? The double pupil heat ray jet may be born from the radiation of the solar system. If you change the galaxy, you may also be born. Birth point of other abilities. Yes, in theory. Messiah nodded. Suchen's mind became active all of a sudden. He even thought about what powers he would activate if he broke into a world of ice and snow. And this time, the Messiah in front of him was flickering and blurring, the light was constantly refracted, and the figure of the whole person could not be guaranteed to take shape. "What's wrong with you?" Suchen was a little puzzled. As early as the moment I escaped from the explosion of Krypton and fell to Earth, I had almost exhausted the energy of the spacecraft, so now I have not much time left. "Can I save you?" Suchen explained emphatically, "Is it possible for me to replenish your energy?" Messiah shook his head. The energy technology of the Kryptonians has surpassed the level of the Earth, and it takes time to make up for it, so there is no energy in the Earth that can be replenished for me. Then I might be able to find energy for other Kryptonian spacecraft. Suchen thought of another Kryptonian spacecraft on Earth, a reconnaissance ship buried under the Arctic ice. It doesn't matter at all. Messiah didn't care about this, but she said urgently, "Time is running out, and it's time to entrust these treasures to you." Treasure? Episode 11. Superman Battlesuit, Central Collection, Treasure? Suchen was surprised. "That's right, that's your treasure." I didn't see how the Messiah did it. A grid popped open on the wall of the spaceship, and there was an object hidden inside. With the opening of the drawer, a treasure floated in the air. In the air. What caught my eye was a skull. The surface of the black skull was marked with golden lines, and a faint majesty and an ancient and distant atmosphere were released from the inside. This is Central Collection. Kryptonians completely play with their genes and chromosomes, and this is a complete gene library in front of the skull, which contains all the DNA of Kryptonians. According to social needs, Kryptonians can be reproduced asexually through gene synthesis. Let them acquire certain traits to play an appropriate social role. It turned out to be this thing. Suchen was a little surprised. In the movie, he remembered that this central treasure had been completely integrated into Clark's body, but he didn't expect it to appear in front of his eyes now. With this thing, the revival of the Kryptonians is just around the corner. Messiah agreed and said with certainty, "In this cosmic interstellar, there are still many waste gas in the outposts of various planets, and there may be many nurseries in it. You can activate them through the Central Collection, and they will definitely obey you, My Majesty." When Suchen held the entire central book in one hand, even the name of the Messiah changed. His Majesty? Yes, when you hold the central treasure in your hand, this has completed the ceremony, and you are now crowned king. Messiah said. A faint golden luster emerges from the entire Central Collection, and you can really feel the warmth in the palm of your hand. Suchen looked at the treasure in his hand. According to legend, this is the skull of Rao, the ancient ancestor of Krypton, which has the effect of benefiting Kryptonians, so it is no wonder that Clark's parents integrated the entire Central Collection into his body. This became the king who was crowned the Kryptonian, and Suchen was a little confused now when he thought about it. However, he knew that there was a reconnaissance ship from Krypton hidden in the North Pole, and the ship had a complete nursery and nutrition tank. Through the central treasure in his hand, he could even use many Krypton men. Think of this. The figure of the Messiah became more and more dim, and the faint light that appeared in the space was inexplicably extinguished. It was obvious that the energy of the entire airship was almost exhausted. There is one more treasure. Messiah didn't dare to stop, and said quickly, "This is something every Kryptonian should have." When Suchen heard this, he already understood what this treasure was. Superman Battlesuit. Sure enough, a robe slowly suspended in the air, the whole body was black, and the cloak was placed in the air and slowly fluttered with the airflow. Superman battlesuit. Suchin couldn't contain the joy in his heart. He liked this battlesuit more than the so-called Central Collection. This battlesuit is also different from the previous battlesuits. My Majesty, the entire suit is made of the latest Kryptonian technology. Unfortunately, it has not been promoted yet, and the entire kryptonite has fallen and shattered. Just feel it. Brand new technology? Suchin couldn't help but reach out and touch this piece of clothing, only to see that the robes that were fluttering in the wind turned into streaks of black mercury with a puff, swept around his body. After a while, the entire battle suit took shape again, perfectly covering the surface of his body. On the smooth metal coating, Suchin can see his own reflection, and the close-fitting black battle suit perfectly modifies his figure, full of a sense of aesthetic power. He squeezed his fist with his right hand, and even felt the surging power coming from it. Suchin didn't need to think about it. He knew that the body clothing would enhance his overall strength. It is very suitable for you, My Majesty, Messiah said complimentably. Suchin nodded, but he remembered the way he was dressed just now, the way the mercury swept his body, a bit like a venom battlesuit. As you can see just now, the whole suit is in the latest liquid form. The battlesuit is very convenient to wear, and even if it is destroyed by external forces, it can recover quickly. Not only that, it can help you better absorb the energy from the outside world. Compared with the previous generation battlesuit, it is many times stronger. I see. Suchin's thoughts moved, and the black battlesuit covering the surface of his body, like the tide receding, shrank to his right wrist, and then turned into a black wrist to wear on it. It's really convenient. In this case, he doesn't need to get dressed in advance under his coat like Clark did. Suchin is very satisfied. The most important thing is that this black battlesuit with a cape is indeed very handsome and compelling. And at the moment, the Messiah in front of him has almost exhausted all the energy. Her influence has become more and more blurred, and the whole person is constantly flickering with distortion. My mission, almost, completed. Even the voice of the Messiah began to stutter, unable to articulate clearly. That black key, remember to take it. It is the one with the highest authority authorized by the Supreme Council. It can activate any facility left by Krypton. Suchin looked at her and nodded. Holding the central treasure in his hand, he squeezed it hard, and seemed to feel a heavy responsibility from it. This time the harvest was great, but he also knew it was time to leave. However, before he was about to die, Suchin, who was on his back, still asked the sentence he wanted to ask most in his heart: can you guarantee that I will definitely embark on the road to revive Krypton? That's your mission, My Majesty. After saying these words, the dim lights in the spaceship that were constantly flickering went out with a swipe, and the holographic projection of Messiah completely disappeared, and the entire space suddenly fell into the darkness where the fingers could not be seen. Suchin didn't say much, and walked out of the spaceship alone. Episode 12. Leave Paradise Island. Reviving Krypton, this is your mission. The Messiah's voice seemed to echo in Suchin's heart for a long time. Revive a race? This reminds Suchin of a joke: give me a woman and I can give you a race. To be honest, with his unique innate advantages and the ecological environment in which Paradise Island is infested with women, it seems that he can really mess around and multiply a race. However, in this way, the formation of the race still takes an extremely long time. For Krypton, it is obviously very fast. As long as you directly pass the central treasure in your hand, and then use the nursery warehouse left by Krypton, you can continue to create a compatriot of Krypton. Simple, direct, rude. Suchin chuckled lightly and put his thoughts behind him. He knew that although the Krypton spacecraft hidden in the Arctic ice had an extremely important nursery, he would not start the spacecraft in a short time. Because the moment the Krypton reconnaissance ship is activated, it will send a signal to General Zod, who is deeply trapped in the Ghost Zone, to know that there must be another battle at that time. So you still need to wait, at least a few years, until you fully grow up. Outside the Black Krypton spacecraft, Amazon Queen Hippolyta has been waiting outside. She is dressed in a gorgeous robe and has a luxurious appearance. At the moment, a pair of delicate features can't help but feel a hint of happiness. It seems that your harvest is not small. This black robe is very beautiful, Queen Hippolyta said. Awaited. Before even a few words of greeting, perhaps thinking that Suchin was about to leave in front of her, the queen became somewhat sentimental, and she couldn't help but take out a black ring. This is a ring blessed by the gods. It can hold some space. Although the space is not large, It is just enough to put your luggage in it. Suchin snorted and took it, but after a while he knew it was the legendary space ring. After hearing the words, he also tried to put the central treasure in his hand. One more important thing. Amazon Queen Hippolyta sighed, I know Diana has been hiding it from me, Ares never died, right? Looking at the sincere eyes, Suchin felt a little guilty in her heart, but this attitude undoubtedly made the queen affirm her thoughts. Call. The queen breathed a sigh of relief. On the day she left Paradise Island, I told her that human beings are not worth saving, but unfortunately this girl likes to make trouble with me since she was born, and hasn't listened to me seriously for decades. But I'm still happy for her to see that she still pursues the light of human nature that is perfect and beautiful. Speaking of this, the queen turned to look at Suchin seriously. Ares is still very dangerous, war is his nourishment. You must protect her. Suchin nodded seriously, held the queen's hand tightly, and said, Mother, I will definitely do it. Not only Ares, I will definitely not let anyone hurt Diana. On the day of parting, on the coast pier. The sea breeze was blowing gently, and a warm air current lingered throughout the pier. It's just that the Amazon ladies on the coast are not happy. Princess Diana, who has just returned, is about to leave, and Suchin, the unique man on the island, will also leave together, so the scene becomes somewhat sad. Stand up. It's time to leave. Suchin, Diana, and the queen each hugged each other and then boarded the boats under the pier. The ropes tied to the wooden stakes were slowly loosened, and the boat began to gradually leave the pier as the tide receded. Suchin, who was standing on the bow of the boat, could not help but become sentimental and waved to the Amazon girls on the pier as a sign bid farewell. It has been many years since I came to this world, and the established acquaintance has been very strong. The feeling of saying goodbye at this moment fills my heart, and it is not very pleasant. Suchin let out a long sigh. Diana, who was putting her luggage in the houseboat, laughed, Aren't you reluctant to part with the woman in Paradise Island? If you regret it, you can swim back now before you leave the magic barrier. Suchin laughed, shook his head and said, Although they are good, they are not as good as you, Diana. Young grade, full of flowers. Diana glanced at him angrily. The boat swam for a while, and there was only the outline of a continental plate left in the side of the pier. Suddenly, puff! The whole boat seemed to have broken through an invisible bubble and made a crisp cry. The surrounding sky and ocean seemed to change. The blue sky became a little obscure, and even the sea became a bit rough. We just passed through the magic barrier. This is the magic cast by the Olympic father Zeus to prevent outsiders from invading. Now this enchantment is much more stable, and there are no specific magical ships that cannot pass through it, Diana said. Suchin nodded, but he found that the boathouse was a bit cramped, and it seemed that the two of them had to squeeze to sleep tonight. Looking at the boundless blue ocean, there are no landed islands and land around, but the Paradise Island that should be behind is magically dissipated. I can't see my head in the blink of an eye, and I don't know how long it will be floating. Where are we going now? London. It's not too far for us to rush to the pier on the coast of Ing. Diana said directly. Suchin nodded. If Paradise Island was going to be marked, it was within the North Sea of the European continent, and the way for the boat to London, the country of Ing, did not seem very far away. Moreover, it is also a very warm and interesting thing to get along with his favorite goddess in a narrow boat. It was dark. The two also had to lie side by side, talking without any qualms. Sue, tell me a bedtime story. Well, there used to be a mountain, and there was a temple in the mountain. There was an old monk and a young monk in the temple. One day, the old monk said to the young monk, There used to be a mountain. Episode 13. London Holy Place. In the early morning, the sun was shining and the whole sea was sparkling. The warmth dissipated the cold on the sea, and Suchin couldn't help but wake up from the sun. A pair of ignorant eyes suddenly opened, and what caught his eye was a delicate and flawless face. At the moment, there was a touch of moving on this face. Blush. Hurry up and stretch out your hand. Just after Diana finished speaking, Suchin realized that his right hand was on her heart. He coughed in embarrassment, and Suchin slowly retracted his hand. The place where the two lay down and slept was a bit crowded, so this was considered an unintentional loss. It's just that Diana seemed to subconsciously regard him as a young brother, so she just smiled and didn't say much. Standing up, Suchin let out a long sigh, and the body bathed in the light only felt a faint fragrance, which was obviously Diana's body/fragrance mixed with shower gel. Taking a deep breath, Suchin suddenly widened his eyes. Look, we are about to reach the continent. I saw the outline of a continental plate in the distance. Well, we're almost there. Diana said with joy. Less than half a day. Somewhere on the pier in the British mainland, a small boat came from drifting, slowly retracting the sails on the mast and sailing into it. Boatman, seal it up in warehouse number 3. Diana said softly, and the oncoming boatman also parked the boat in the warehouse. Depart from Britannia Pier. After wandering for a long time, the two naturally found a restaurant for a full meal. Suchen was very happy to eat a burger meal. He has been in this world for so long, and he has never left Paradise Island, so the burgers in Britain are very attractive to him. However, it is worth mentioning that his appetite is still acceptable, and he did not become very large due to his own strength. Suchen attributes this to the fact that his cells have been absorbing external energy, so that he does not need to eat excessive food to make up for it. Eat for a long time. Suchen patted his stomach and asked, "Where are we going next?" "London, I need to go to the holy place in London," Diana said. After hearing this, Suchen was stunned. Diana thought he was puzzled and couldn't help but explain, London Holy Place is a training hall exclusively for magicians. Most of these magicians were trained under the ancient one magician of Kamaji Mahal. Suchen nodded, and he couldn't help but know that this world is not only DC elements such as Paradise Island and Krypton Superman, but also elements of the Marvel world. What a complex and interesting world. Suchen didn't mind at the bottom of his heart, but had some vague expectations. It's also because the holy place in London included Ares as a target, so I sometimes go there to check for news. Diana also explained her intentions. After a full meal, two people sat in a black car and were heading to the magician holy place in London in person. The landing pier is a certain distance from the holy place in London, and even a moderately fast car will take several hours. At the moment, Suchen was uncharacteristically sitting in the car. He didn't say anything to Diana. Instead, he sat calmly in the car and tapped the crisp armrest with his right hand from time to time. Definitely, his thoughts were already flying out. Listen. At the moment his ears are rapidly receiving information from the outside world. The city he passed by was prosperous and noisy. The area covered by Suchen's listening to the collection was not so noisy, but a little shrinking. The whole area was centered on him, and he received it within a few miles. The price of radishes has gone up today, come and buy a few pounds. The voice of bargaining in the market. The stock of the Osborne Group is up again today. Someone discussed the sound of the stock price. Come and see, the freshly baked cake. The hawker shouted on the road. The chaotic and noisy voices from all walks of life converged into one, like a magic sound filling his ears, and broke into Suchen's mind. He could easily block the useless and messy voices. The reason for this is that firstly, he wanted to train his ability to listen carefully, and secondly, it was naturally to receive information from the outside world, and to understand the world by the way. At least before that, he had heard the familiar Osborne Group and Tony. History Stark's title. In this regard, he has some new understanding of the appearance of the world. In addition, the most important thing is that he is still learning knowledge. Yes, learn knowledge. Although in the impression of others, Superman has always been a stereotyped sense of power to press people, but it is undeniable that his original IQ is far beyond ordinary people. Learning a basic skill is also very fast, beyond ordinary people's imagination. Listening to the conversation in French in the distance, even Suchen now has a certain superficial understanding of French in just a few minutes. Thinking of this, Diana suddenly patted Suchen on the shoulder. What's the matter? How do you get caught up in what you're thinking about? You've been thinking like this for a long time. Diana looked at Suchen with a smile and couldn't help but continue, don't worry, although you've left the familiar environment, but I will take good care of you and let you adapt to life here as soon as possible. Suchen sketched a smile and nodded. He knew that Diana seemed to have misunderstood something, but he didn't explain anything. However, it is not good for him to continue to study like no one else. The two began to chat. But after a while, a slightly classical and old Western-style palace building caught everyone's eyes. Obviously, this is the holy place in London. Jingle. Gently opening the door, the two entered the holy place. The spacious and brilliant hall and the hanging silver chandelier were very magnificent. Soon, a magician in a crimson robe was greeted in front of him. Dear Wonder Woman, welcome. Mark magician in front of him looked at Suchen beside him with some doubts. This is My brother. Diana laughed. Mark Magician nodded, but when he looked at Su Chen, there was a hint of indescribable meaning in his eyes, which was very difficult to capture. You also know my purpose. There is news from Ares recently? Diana couldn't help but get close to the subject. Episode 14. Mark Magician. Diana immediately inquired about Ares' news, but Mark Magician, who met at the holy place in London, did not reply immediately, but asked the two to take a nap in London and wait for a while. It has been raining in London these days. Located in a castle on the outskirts of the city, it is the place where Su Chen and the two settled. The ancient Western-style castle has a different artistic conception under the background of the rain and fog. Don't look at Diana as a famous Wonder Woman. In the past few decades, her assets have been considered rich, and the properties under her name are also all over the world. The castle where at the moment is located is one of her names. 1. As an Amazon princess, she definitely has a certain demand for materials. In addition, the enamel antiques and medieval oil paintings inside and outside the castle are testimony to her artistic taste. There is even a sculptured human figure in the hall. The unfinished sculpture can be seen from the outline of an Amazon female warrior. Originally, Diana was able to complete the work today, but she finally received an order from the holy place in London. News, and has personally gone to the place where the trace was found to find clues. Why don't you take me with you? Su Chen felt a little helpless. Diana, who got up in the morning, just said, there is St. Mary's Church, and it's full of nuns. It's hard to bring you, and it's just a trace of cobweb. It's probably his followers. I'll be back soon. Besides, today is the day when the clothes are made, you stay at home for me. So ever. Su Chen had to stay in the castle board, definitely not the only one. Raise your hand. An old man in a suit with antique reading glasses was holding a measuring ruler and was measuring the circumference of his arm against Su Chen's arm. From time to time, a small assistant was anxious to make numbers. That's right, it's the days of the so-called clothes made to order. Feeling that Su Chen, who had just walked out of Paradise Island, did not have a few modern clothes, so Diana specially asked a tailor to make some clothes for him. According to Su Chen's idea, just buy a few clothes, but Diana's sister, who is very concerned about the quality of life, obviously does not accept it. Definitely, it can also be seen that Diana is kind to herself, and Su Chen is not good at brushing off her kindness. I can't believe it. You can't tell that you're just an 8-year-old with your height and figure. The old tailor said in surprise, and the female assistant on the side looked at Su Chen curiously. You definitely can't tell, you can't tell that I'm a Kryptonian. Su Chen slandered inwardly. But this time. Su Chen frowned, his face suddenly became serious, and a pair of black and white clear eyes cooled down like ice cream. Sir, you need to raise your arm. The old tailor was about to speak, but he found silhouettes reflected in the reading glasses hanging in front of him. He turned his head and couldn't help being startled. In the center of the hall, there were actually 3 people wearing linen robes and masks. You are. Before the old tailor finished speaking, he only felt that the skull-shaped mask on the opposite side exuded a trace of gloomy air conditioning, which made people tremble involuntarily. Reconfirm, Wonder Woman is not here. Very good, as expected. The figure in the linen robe facing him spoke in a hoarse voice, as if gnawing at a bone, which was very harsh and unpleasant to hear. At the moment, no matter how stupid people are, they know that the 3 characters in strange clothes in front of them must come with some kind of malice. But the piercing voice sounded again, and the masked-robed geek said, these 2 people present unexpectedly killed them completely. Note that the boy is Wonder Woman's younger brother, and he was captured alive. Tender skin/meat, you have to control your strength. A word instantly revealed their intentions. Screams suddenly burst out from the female assistant's mouth. Listening to the oath of slaughter, she couldn't just sit back and ignore it. After all, it was going to kill her completely. You, don't come here. The scissors in her hand glowed with a cold light, coldly facing the 3 weirdos in front of her. Unexpectedly, her childish behavior caused a burst of ridicule from the 3 in front of her. See, this guy is actually holding a pair of scissors. With bursts of sarcastic laughter, Su Chen took a step forward unhurriedly. At the same time, a cold sentence floated out, have you had enough laughs, Mark? The laughter stopped suddenly, and the audience instantly fell silent, even with a mask on. The stiff and frightened expression was revealed incomparably. You, what do you call me? Asked the linen robe weirdo in a slightly disbelieving tone. Can't hear clearly? Then I'll get closer and tell you. Bang. Like a super sports car that started suddenly, the speed of a few Machs was achieved overnight, and the figure of the boy in front of him disappeared in place, and then jumped into everyone's eyes very suddenly. So fast. A huge grip pressed against Mark's head and slammed into the wall beside him with a bang. Red blood spurted out instantly, and the impact point on the wall sank by dozens of centimeters. Mark. Mark. Did you hear your name clearly? Su-Chin leaned into his ear and shouted unscrupulously, but the head he grabbed was like a broken watermelon. Things poured all over the ground, and the entire wall that hid it was even more shaky. I hate others playing tricks in front of me the most. Su-Chin let go of the head that he was holding in his hands, his limp body was lifeless, and lay directly on the ground, motionless, as if dead. The deceased was indeed called Mark. No doubt, how did Su-Chin know that this guy was the guy who was received at the holy place in London a few days ago? Although his voice was processed and his appearance was wearing a mask, the smell of the human body was unique to everyone. Furthermore, in the face of a self who can see through and read minds, no matter how you hide yourself, it is like the Emperor's new clothes, which is very ridiculous. Leave Diana away and try to catch me, but your abacus is good. Episode 15. Smash through the holy place. You. An angry voice suddenly came out. The tragic death of Mark Magician did not leave the remaining two dead. Although they didn't know what happened, they knew that a crisis was approaching quietly. Get started first. The temperature in the air rose faintly, and the surroundings were filled with scorching heat. With the rise of a six-pointed star formation, there was a fire in front of him, and a long fire snake suddenly spewed out from the fire, stretching for a long time. The body of the continuum crossed dozens of meters at once. The heat lingered all over his body. Su-Chin just sneered, and his right hand went straight to look. The snake's head made of flame was actually grabbed by his hand, and the palm seemed to contain boundless power. With a puff, the fire snake burst open and scattered all over the sky. Fire rain fell. The magician's eyes were unbelievable, and at the same time, a figure had come to him. Too fast. He didn't even have time to react. Bang. The vast and boundless force was released from the fist and landed on his stomach. The whole body was folded in half, and the internal organs, spine and ribs were all broken, except for the right fist that Su-Chin protruded. His left hand was pinched on his shoulder when he punched, and one leg directly stepped on the opposite magician's right foot. Up and down / hold, this way, like a punch from a full-speed train, it didn't completely knock him out hundreds of meters away. But also let the endless giant power, all the omissions, let him take on it. How could this be the enormous force that his magician could endure? Before Su-Chin let go, he was already unconscious, and there was no chance for treatment. Violence, horror. The only survivor on the opposite side actually realized these two words from Su-Chin. His body was even trembling, and his feet seemed to be unable to move at all, but he also knew that he couldn't beat this monster at all. Beat? Don't be kidding, the colleague whose body was discounted is still vivid in his mind. Then only. As a result, one after another magical luster constantly flashed from his body, and numerous defensive magics continued to bless him. Armor. Stone skin. Magic armor. This is the meaning of magic that he can only understand on the field, and the superb gesture guidance undoubtedly shows his good magic cultivation. Only in exchange for a contemptuous sneer. Coward? The voice just fell. Su-Chin landed with a punch. The majestic force was like the river water bursting out of the dam, and it was vented in an instant, followed by a ringing like a yellow bell, and there were traces of glass cracks in the air. Magician was startled, and his hands hurriedly started to guide spells again. However, after all, the speed of punching down is relatively rough and simple. Another punch fell, the air barrier in front of him was completely shattered, and the layers of defensive magic were directly scattered, and the remaining fist power was as vast as the wind, pouring into the body inside. Puff. A mouthful of blood spurted out. At the same time, a figure, like a tattered sandbag, was completely thrown out. The arc that slipped into the air happened to exit the hall door, and with a plop, it landed in the pool outside the castle. An extra punch? It seems that the spell is still useful. Su-Chin squinted his eyes, and the cold light in his eyes dissipated. Seeing that the engraved female warrior statue in the hall was stained with a trace of blood, he couldn't help feeling annoyed in his heart. He found that sometimes he couldn't control the anger in his heart, but he didn't care too much. This incident is really annoying. Obviously, visiting the holy place in London a few days ago turned people into a conspiracy. The marked magician who was introduced is undoubtedly Ares' lackey. Anna, take advantage of the situation to grab yourself. Ares' lackeys are still hiding in the holy place in London, which is unexpected. It's beautiful to think about, but you guys are really unlucky. Suchin looked at the corpse on the ground and couldn't help but get angry again. If he was an unarmed guy, he might have been succeeded. Thinking of this, Suchin couldn't leave it alone. Okay, you're safe, wipe off the blood here. You can go now. The old tailor and the little assistant were both crying and laughing, as if they did not expect that the process of customizing clothes would be such a bloody mess, and the boy in front of him was actually like an Ashura. However, they are also familiar with the identity of Wonder Woman, and they are also professionally hired talents. After the panic in their hearts, they also took a breath and nodded. It's just that when they turned around again, the little master in front of them had disappeared. London Holy Place. A whistling sound resounded from the high-rise building, accompanied by a burst of piercing tearing air sounds. A figure was like a meteorite, and with a bang, it fell into the hall of the holy place. The fall was full of exaggerated energy, and he smashed 2 or 3 floors of buildings, landing firmly on the ground of the first-floor hall, and a huge meteorite crater was formed leisurely. The huge momentum also filled the pit with thick layers of gunpowder smoke. Suchin patted the dirt on his body. He was not good at flying. He liked to jump into the air with a burst of energy, and then use it to reach a certain destination, so one can imagine how exaggerated the movement was. But this terrifying jump was not enough to make him feel a little bit of pain, but after taking a breath, he stood up unhurriedly. It seemed that the thick mud mist around him was a little annoying, and Suchin remembered his very comfortable battle suit. As a result, the black watch on his wrist poured down his entire body like mercury. When the smoke dissipated, a group of disgusting and very angry holy place magicians stood up around the pothole. They had no idea that the mighty movement just now was caused by a boy in a black uniform. Manufactured. You, what the hell do you want to do? You know this is the magician forbidden area? Break into the magician's palace and report your destination. Cries of scolding rose up. Suchin didn't say much, just threw the things that he had been lifting in front of them. Thinking of what a hidden weapon, the crowd couldn't help but take a step back. When they saw it clearly, what was thrown in front of them was actually a corpse, a well-known corpse, Mark. Originally, he had a sunken head, but after another fall and collision, he was even more inhuman. If half of his face hadn't been vaguely seen, he wouldn't be able to easily identify his identity. You, arrogant. Trespassing the holy place and humiliating the holy place magician. Don't even think about going out of this room. Stand up one by one, I'll identify your identities first, and catch you one by one. Suchin clenched his fists in the face of the abnormally high mana elements around him.